and welcome. We begin tonight's meeting with the land acknowledgement. The Limestone District School Board is situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. We acknowledge their enduring presence on this land, as well as the presence of Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across Turtle Island. We honor their culture and celebrate their commitment to this land. We're only missing one trustee this evening. Everyone is in person except for Trustee Hutchin, who is joining us virtually. I would also like to welcome our 2025-2026 student trustees. Rachel Kolosov, Indigenous Student Trustee attending Kingston Secondary School. Siem Ismail, Urban Student Trustee attending Kingston Secondary School. And Mia Como, Rural Student Trustee attending Granite Ridge Education Center. Welcome.
Welcome.
Are there any additions or changes to tonight's agenda?
Sorry, I just wanted to note that the Trustee Godkin is absent.
Oh, okay, thank you. Are there any additions or changes? No? Could I have someone move for the adoption of the agenda, please? Thank you, Trustee Neal. Seconded by? Thank you, Trustee Scott. Declaration of conflict of interest. Do any trustees have any conflict of interest? And if so, would they please identify the item number? Seeing none. Delegations. There are no delegations this evening. I would like to call upon Trustee Elliott to rise and report from private session.
Thank you, Chair McGregor. Earlier this evening during private session, the private session minutes were approved from the following: June 18th, 2025, regular board meeting, and Director Burrow provided a legal update. There was no other business conducted or motions passed in private session.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Trustee Lloyd. Hearing no objections, that is carried. Approval of the minutes. As outlined in your agenda, there's one set of minutes to approve. The regular board meeting minutes of June the 18th, 2025. Nothing pulled. Moved by Trustee Elliott, seconded by, thank you, Trustee Scott. Hearing no objections, that is carried. Reports from officers, and now my first chair's report. As we prepare to welcome students and families back into our schools on Wednesday, September 3rd, I want to take a moment to reflect on the excitement and promise that a new school year brings. Each September marks a fresh beginning, an opportunity for students to grow, for families to engage, and for staff to collaborate in creating vibrant learning environments. This year, we look forward to building on our shared commitment to making a positive difference in the lives of every student in every classroom and every school across Limestone. The start of the school year is not only a time of renewal, but also a chance to strengthen relationships, foster innovation, and celebrate the diverse strengths of our communities. I'm confident that through collaboration, dedication, and a shared vision for student success, we will achieve great things together. On behalf of the board, I extend a warm welcome back to all students, families, and staff. Let's make this year one of meaningful learning, growth, and achievement. This concludes my report. And now we have the director's report.
Thank you, Chair McGregor. Good evening, trustees and members of the public joining us for this meeting. I'm pleased to provide you with my update tonight as we prepare for the start of the 2025-2026 school year in 2 weeks. As I was saying to the student trustees and a group of educators earlier today, we're now at the point in the year where every day feels like Sunday. There's a little bit of excitement and a little bit of trepidation as the school year approaches, and it's like any other Sunday during the school year. I hope everyone found themselves with some holiday time this summer to enjoy time with family and friends. And reflecting on the summer is important for everyone to have the opportunity to recharge and reflect on the important work we do to collaboratively to support children and youth in the Limestone community. With the summer season, schools were not running as they do for the other 10 months of the year. However, there was lots of activity for students this July and August. Similar to last year, over 260 students participated in Camp Read a Lot at 3 different sites, and over 700 secondary students participated in summer session earning credits through virtual summer school. In addition, almost 570 students participated in outdoor education programming offered at some schools, at Gould Lake, and or on outdoor education trips. Trustees will receive a report in the fall, providing more details regarding the range of summer programs that occurred in July and August. In addition, a considerable amount of facilities work occurs in the schools during the summer, and Manager Fowler will provide a summary of this work in September. We are greatly looking forward to welcoming back staff and well over 20,000 students as the school year starts. While over 99% of students will be face-to-face in classrooms, Limestone continues to offer a virtual option for some students. Regardless of the format of learning, Limestone will continue to do its best to meet students where they are and support student well-being. Mental health and well-being are essential conditions for achievement and learning for all students. Schools will begin reopening next week, with many staff getting ready for the new school year, and we look forward to Limestone Schools welcoming back students on Wednesday, September 3rd, with a full range of activities to be available for students in the 25-26 school year. As a reminder, we are starting the school year with a PA Day on Tuesday, September 2nd. With almost all labor agreements behind us, we can expect stability on this front again for this year. And we all know that extracurriculars like sports and clubs, full arts programming and field trips are of tremendous value. As trustees know, all of these student activities are made possible by the generous time provided by staff and some community members. I think I speak for everyone in expressing our gratitude to the staff and community members that provide these valuable learning experiences and services to Limestone students. This evening, there are some routine cyclical reports coming to trustees, but we also look forward to sharing with you an overview of a new administrative procedure focused on human rights and an award to honor the late former trustee Judith Brown. As trustees know, considerable work occurs by central departments, facilities, finance, human resources, and ITS during the summer months to ensure schools are ready for the school year. I would like to acknowledge staff in all of those departments for the important work they do throughout the year, but also during the summer months when many others are on vacation. Finally, I should also note that Limestone hosted its 12th successful Summer Institute earlier today, with approximately 200 Limestone educators attending to learn from each other and continue to hone their craft at Kingston Secondary School. A wide range of learning topics were available to support their learning, kindergarten to grade 12. We are very pleased to be able to provide this valuable learning opportunity to staff. This is just one example of learning that Limestone educators have been participating in this summer. As we all know, learning is a journey, not a destination, and we must always model learning to support the system and do the best we can to serve every student in every classroom, in every school. Thank you, Chair McGregor. That completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. And now for reports. The first one is the OPSFR report. Nothing much has happened over the summer, same as school boards, but I would like to reiterate how important it is that trustees complete the 6 modules by August 31st. Unlike earlier, the modules that were webinars, you had to actually go and do those. They filmed all of those now. They've all been, so they're ready to do. I know that many of you have already completed all 6, but it is not too far from August 31st, and I would like to see 100% of them completed by the end of the month. And that's it for my OPSFR report. Student trustees report, they don't have a report, this is the first meeting, so we'll make sure that they have one for September. Any reports for action? Short-term borrowing resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On pages 21 and 22 of your package, you'll find the short-term borrowing resolution report. Trustees will be familiar with this one as it comes forward every August for your approval, as the Education Act does require trustees approve when the school board is going to borrow funds. We are looking to renew our $20 million line of credit with RBC. And again, we have a cash management strategy that is implemented by the province, and because of the reserves that we have, they actually hold back the transfer of funds to us until the end of the school year. And so that's a little bit of a way that they can reduce the transfers to us and require us to use our reserves throughout the course of the year. And so because of the cash management strategy, we need to ensure that when the transfers come from the ministry or the transfers that come from the municipalities, the timing of cash flows going out to cover our outflow, that we always have that covered. And we did not dip into the line of credit this past year. We did not need it, but the year before we actually did, mostly due to the Bill 124 payments that went out. So we also have, we do not have a capital line of credit because we're not undertaking any capital projects at this time, but on occasion we will have capital lines of credit, although not at this time. RBC is our primary banker and the one that will be we will be looking to renew the line of credit. There is a recommendation on the bottom of page 22, and that the board authorize the signing officers of the board to enter into agreements with the Royal Bank of Canada for the borrowing of funds to meet the operating requirements to a maximum of 20 million for the 25-26 fiscal year. And Madam Chair, I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Trustee Ratan,
Make the motion.
thank you. We need a second. Someone to second the motion, trustee Elliott? Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Passed. Reports for information, interim reporting, quarter 3. Superintendent Young and Manager of Financial Services, Paula Carson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pages 23 to 25 of your package is the interim financial report for Q3. And with that, I'll pass it over to Manager Pearson.
Thank you, Superintendent Young. The purpose of my report tonight is to report on the interim financial operating expenditures for the period ending May 31st, 2025, or quarter 3. Quarter 2 was presented to the board on April 23rd, 2025, and is similar to the report you will see tonight. And I ask you to please turn to Appendix 1 on page 25. And with that, I'll also have it up for your display. On Appendix 1, the interim financial report operating expenditures for the period ending May 31st, 2025, or quarter 3, reflects that we have spent $238.96 million, or 76% of our $312.7 million operating budget, and these amounts are shown at the bottom of this page. This is 9% less than last year's 85% results for the same quarter. The difference is primarily due to the additional expenditures for the Bill 124 remedy payments that were included in the previous year's results. So going through each category, we'll start at the top under instruction. So under this category, all categories except for textbooks and supplies, computers, staff development, and principals and vice principals decreased due to the Bill 124 remedy payments paid during quarter 3 of the 23 to 24 fiscal year. Other changes included increase in supply staff expenses related to increased staff absences. In addition, educational assistant expenses has increased as a result of added costs for short-term EA support. The percentage increase in computer expenditures is attributable to the acquisition of additional computer devices. And under the second category, administration and governance, the trustees' expenditures decreased due to the timing of the pay periods for new and existing trustees. And under for board admins, third line, the decrease for board administration is due to the Bill 124 remedy payments paid during quarter 3 of the 23 to 24 fiscal year. The next category, transportation. These amounts are consistent with quarter 3 of the 23 to 24 fiscal year. The pupil accommodation category decreased due to the Bill 124 remedy payments paid during quarter 3 of the 23 to 24 fiscal year. The other category, again, is consistent with quarter 3 of the 23 to 24 fiscal year. This is our report for information purposes, Madam Chair. We will be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none. Oh, one, trustee Elliott?
Does computers include ramifications from the cyber incident, or is that a separate area?
That would actually fall under the other category, but we hadn't covered anything, so there was no additional expenses. Anything was covered through insurance.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Administrative Procedure 107, Human Rights. Superintendent McDonald.
Good evening, trustees, and thank you, Chair McGregor. I would like to, before we begin, introduce Yusuf Abdul Karim, who is the LBSB Human Rights and Equity Advisor, and will be joining this evening on the presentation of AP 107. Trustees, I would ask that you draw your attention to page 26 in your agenda package, where you will find the report, and then following the report, the AP is there in its entirety as well. You can just advance this one. Thank you. AP 107 acknowledges the existence and the impact of historical and ongoing systemic discrimination. And within AP 107, it sets out the board's approach to creating an equitable, accessible, and inclusive environment that is free from discrimination and harassment. And it also supports the board's strategic plan goal of fostering student learning, achievement, and well-being. Trustees, it is very important to note that having an overarching human rights procedure like AP 107 establishes a single, consistent foundation for how human rights are understood, protected, and enforced across the school board. So AP 107 becomes the umbrella procedure with all other related procedures and guidelines, such as the AP on student complaints or workplace harassment or gender identity, just to name a few. They are grounded in the same principles and legal obligations and definitions that you will find in this umbrella AP. An overarching AP, like AP 107, signals that human rights are not confined to isolated areas of practice, but are central to the culture, policies, and procedures, and the daily operations of the board. So, next slide, please.
For some background on AP 107, as Andy has mentioned, it affirms the board's commitment to legislative and policy compliance. One of the recommendations of the Ontario Human Rights Commission is actually being every organization should have a human rights policy or procedure, as that is an important aspect of compliance with the Human Rights Code. AP 107 also addresses systemic discrimination that we've identified through various data collection done in board, like the LBSB student census, staff work census, as well as the human rights reporting tool. The AP also defines key human rights concepts. As Andy mentioned before, it's important that we have a shared understanding of what some of these key terms mean, so that everyone, it could also serve as an opportunity for folks to learn and understand where what board's position is in terms of human rights and some of these concepts as well. Next slide. It also clarifies the roles and responsibilities of various committee members and establishes clear expectations. And it also very clearly explains the different complaint processes that applies depending on who is involved as part of the limestone community. Another important aspect of that is it creates accountability through data collection and reporting. It's important, again, data collection is also a vital aspect of ensuring we're compliant with human rights, seeing, how well we're doing, where the shortcomings are, where we need to focus our efforts for decision making and continuous improvement. Next slide. And so these are some of the core components of AP 107. It begins by very clearly explaining some definitions. Again, it's important that we all have a shared understanding of what these things mean as a board. It also very clearly spells out the protected grounds under the Ontario Human Rights Code. It's important that folks know that this work is actually the actual law, namely the Ontario Human Rights Code, and what we're simply doing is making sure we're setting out what those grounds are and saying we're very clearly committing to making sure that we're following the Ontario Human Rights Code. It gives some examples of forms of discrimination. The whole point of the Ontario Human Rights Code is to prevent discrimination. So those would be some examples of how that happened. It also very clearly explains the scope. As Ali also mentioned, the AP 107 is the overarching human rights procedure in the board. In the same way, the Ontario Human Rights Code is the supreme law in Ontario. Say this is the supreme AP in the board as well. And so every other administrative procedure, it doesn't have to be related to human rights, any other kind of AP in the board, guidelines, all of these actually have to align provisions of this AP, and it applies to students, staff, trustees, every member of LDS. It also sets out roles and responsibilities of all community members, and so everybody that has any kind of connection with LDS find themselves in there in terms of what their roles are and what their responsibilities are as well when it comes to human rights.
Okay, next step. Thanks, Yusuf. So next steps, which are incredibly important. So we need to ensure that now that LDSB has AP 107 as their umbrella AP, that staff and students and families and community members are aware that this AP exists and are aware of what is inside this AP and what this means for them and what their rights are as it relates to this AP. So the very first thing that we need to do is to ensure that there is a communication plan. And so beginning on the September PA Day as part of mandatory training, all staff members within LDSB will have an opportunity to review this AP as part of the mandatory training process. Our plan is also to share this with families and community partners in the very near future through a communication. And with that communication for families, we have been working on a family guide, which will be a supplement to the AP and will create some additional understanding around human rights and what that means in the Limestone District School Board as well. The labor partners and associations in Limestone have had an opportunity to review and view the AP and are aware of its existence as well. And it is currently placed publicly on the Limestone District School Board Administrative Procedures public facing website.
As part of our next steps as well, and implementation, we will continue to analyze human rights data. One of the from my main project every summer is actually to look through the human rights data that we collect, analyze it, and then as in the new school year, we talk about some of the trends and some of the things we see in terms of addressing some of the major human rights issues we see. And so continue to do that as well as we go forward. Also use that information as to inform our decision-making process. We spend a lot of time as a team looking at data and figuring out where we need to devote additional resources, where folks might need additional support. And so that would be also a huge part of our next steps and implementation. We are also committed to releasing our data every year. We've released our data for the past 2 years, I believe. And so over the next few months, we would also be working on analyzing data. And once we finish, would have reports that would publishing and listening to the LDSB community as well.
Great. Trustees, that concludes our report, and we are happy to take any questions. Trustee Lloyd?
Not a question, just a comment. I'm really just, first off, thank you. The Number 5, forms of discrimination. This is so necessary, and I'm really, really glad to see this completely outlined, including like everything from racial profiling, direct discrimination, adverse effect discrimination, subtle microaggressions, and poisoned environment, like laying it out. This is, all of these items are fall under this policy is really good to see. So just kudos.
Thank you, Trustee Wood. Trustee Elliott?
As an internal policy for the Limestone Board, I'm just curious if other boards have seen what you're doing and are on board with implementing it themselves, or if other boards have similar policies like this.
Yes. Yes, we a few boards do have human rights administrative procedures as well. So well, I don't know exactly how much, but I would say some of the larger school boards, especially, definitely have human rights administrative procedure and many other documents that kind of speak to human rights. And so it's been nice to be able to kind of share what's been happening and see how they are also addressing some of the issues that we face as well.
No other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. Number 14, unfinished business. Feeding Minds food and beverage policy. Allegation. Oh, skipped one, sorry. Sorry. This was an important one. 13.4.3, the Judith Brown Black Excellence Award.
Thank you, Chair McGregor. And to trustees, you may be wondering why you did not hear about this in June, given that we were able to actually award it at that time. It's because everything came together right in the middle of June, and we thought, you know what, we need to give this to a student as soon as possible. The family finally gave the go-ahead, I'm going to say, around June the 20th, and so as a result, we just a few days later awarded a student. It actually was the student from LCBI who received the Limestone Student Achievement Award at the May meeting. And while the family was not able to present the award, given the relatively short notice, teacher Andrea Barrow did go and help deliver that award. And before I get into actually a little bit of the information about this, if you haven't seen it already and you have been downtown, there is a lovely tribute to Judy Brown. It's a bit in a funny location in the sense that Brock Street is heading in this direction, but it's actually on a wall directly across from the Black Dog Tavern and Atomica. So you wouldn't actually see it if you were driving. You actually would only see it if you happen to be walking on the street. There's a lovely photo of Judith looking up into the sky I'm assuming it's a local artist by the name of Sandra Brewster. But it's quite a lovely tribute. If you happen to be downtown sometime in the near future, you can see that along Brock Street. You may remember, obviously, with the very unfortunate death of former trustee Brown last fall, some trustees had expressed a desire potentially for there to be an award created to honor her. Certainly heard that loud and clear as well from Limestone staff, including Andrea Barrow, as well as a formal request from the Umoja Black Advisory Council that obviously Trustee Brown helped found and lead as well. Consequently, we were able to establish this award in June. And you can, in the report, you can see the description that outlines, I think, very clearly what Trustee Brown stood for as an educator, as a member of the Queens community, as a member of the Kingston community, and obviously as a former educator in the Frontenac County Board of Education, and obviously during her tenure as a trustee of the Limestone District School Board. As I indicated, the description and the award was approved by the family in the middle of June, and we were very pleased to award it to a student from LCBI at the June 2025 graduation. The plan is to, moving forward from here, is that there would be an award given to one graduating Black student in the board. And what I will say is it was very obvious in the first particular instance that there was a student that was well deserving of the award, especially given the amount of leadership she also provided among the racialized student group of students in Limestone. And the plan will be to have actually schools submit nominations for the award and for us to go through a similar process. There just was not enough time in June for us to do that, to allow that to happen. The plan would be something similar to the other awards, Limestone Student Achiever Awards and other awards, with the idea that the student would be granted the award at their school graduation as part of that particular process, given this award is a little bit different than some of the other awards that we honor at this particular table in May and June. And so with that, the only other thing I would add is there likely will be some efforts supported by the family as well as by OJA to do some fundraising so that there is a financial amount of money that will be attached to the award moving forward into the future. So with that, Chairman Berger, I'm happy to take any questions or feedback. And again, my apologies that this is being shared kind of after we awarded it. It just came together very quickly and there wasn't an opportunity to bring it to you at that June board meeting in a time.
Trustee Maureen?
Yes. While there was a very worthy award, I'm just wondering, was there monetary value to the award this time, or are we just looking at that for the future?
So Trustee Morning, what I did was I used a little bit of budget to provide a financial amount for this first time around, with the idea then that the fundraising would allow for a financial reward moving into the future.
Awesome. Because I know there were a couple of trustees who wanted to donate and we've heard nothing. So I was really surprised to find this. But I did see the mural and it's wonderful.
Yes, and Trustee Morning, I expedited that just because there was an opportunity to do that fundraising, but we'll count you in with the fundraising.
I'd just like to say I sent it to OXPA and they feature it on their website. So that's kind of nice.
That's right, and actually it was in the OPSPA update, the photograph that's downtown as well as the write-up.
Yep. Other questions? Thanks. Now I'm going to into any business. Feeding Minds Food and Beverage Policy Delegation.
So trustees, you will see in the package, we did, as we usually do, provide a thank you and acknowledgement of the delegation in the immediate aftermath when that occurs. And obviously, there's an opportunity every time there is a delegation for trustees to ask questions based on the content presented previously as part of that delegation. And I know Associate Superintendent Goligly, who is our primary contact with public health across the street, is the lead for this particular component. What I will say is this only applies to circumstances where food is actually being sold on premises. It does not, it's kind of funny, but it doesn't apply actually to food provided on the food sharing project, even though the food sharing project food does comply. So really what we're talking about here is if a school council decides they want to do a hot dog fundraiser or a pizza fundraiser or something of that sort. Schools, as the speaker did provide at that particular point in time, schools are provided with 10 kind of exemption days for when they can sell food that does not comply. This policy was initially put in place 15 years ago. Public health initially did provide considerable support for the wider Frontenac, Langston, Addington community by actually providing investigations of food providers and whether they comply or they did not comply. And we had kind of a sellers list. What's happened is over the course of the last few years, public health has not been focusing energy in that particular regard, and they are not able to do that. And so while we have this expectation, it is a bit of a challenge, particularly if schools are going, they're doing a weekly or bi-weekly fundraiser for the school council. People are aware of the restrictions and try to do their best. The challenge is, having oversight over exactly the recipes and the ingredients that are going into all of the foods in these particular situations. What I will also say is it also becomes a bit of a challenge in schools as soon as we start talking about this, because with the cost of food and inflation over the course of the last few years and food insecurity in many communities, there is a bit of a challenge in terms of kind of food shaming, if you like, if some students or families are sending food that is very clearly kind of on that no list in terms of what we would be providing and selling in schools in terms of a hot dog sale or a pizza sale. So I would certainly say that this is a larger challenge for us to implement right now without the ability to have public health or some other agency test the food and make sure that it actually is in compliance, particularly as it relates to sodium and sugar in the food. But it's also one that's a bit of a tricky one to follow also from the standpoint of the challenges that many families have right now with the quality of food that they're able to actually afford to feed their families at this point in time. But certainly happy to take any questions stemming from that or what I've just said, and I might ask Associate Superintendent Colleague to help support if there's a specific question.
Oh.
Yeah, just quickly, are there other boards that have established policies that we could adopt?
So we do have a procedure that kind of is in compliance with the policy program memorandum from the province. What I would say is this is now a challenge everywhere, and other school boards would as well. But the challenge is again is around monitoring the food. The other thing I will say is even when public health was doing this, it actually was very problematic for smaller businesses who were operating in more remote kind of areas. It was some of the larger companies, and I won't name any, it was easier for them to actually provide all of the analysis to public health to say that yes, they were on that list. It was much more challenging for kind of smaller businesses to actually comply. And usually, school councils do like to defer to local businesses around the school, particularly in more rural communities, to try to help support rural business, and there isn't a way to make it actually have oversight in terms of whether they nutritionally comply with the standards.
Superintendent.
If I remember that delegation, the presenter didn't even know that we had the food sharing project. Like I know she was probably going across the country, but she didn't really seem to know what kind of supports we had in our schools, and I noticed that. So she was speaking from primarily like parents are providing foods in school, then it should be healthy food, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't find her aware of our student nutrition program in Ontario.
Right, no, she did not reach out to ask for context-specific information from us before doing that. And I do think you're right, she was, I believe she was based in Southwestern Ontario and was doing this across jurisdictions. And you may remember she actually pulled up a Eastern Maritime Province kind of policy as opposed to the Ontario PPM 150.
Yeah.
Other questions? 15, new business, there is new business. There is no new business. 16, correspondence, there is no correspondence. Notice of motion, there are no notices of motion. Announcements, there are no announcements. Committee minutes for information, you know what I'm going to say. There are no committee minutes for information. Future board meeting schedule, dates in your package, and I would ask for someone to move for adjournment. Thank you, Trustee Lloyd, seconded by Trustee Scott. Hearing no objections, that is carried, and the meeting is adjourned.